Hey guys, Cold here. Welcome to another Raid Challenge video, guys. We've got the release basically of information to the content creators for the new bosses that are coming to the Doom Tower when the reset happens. So the reset is gonna be in about, I think it's a week, right? So the reset in a week, in one day, so a week, and we'll have the new bosses available for the Doom Tower, both normal and hard difficulty. So we'll go over their skills very quickly. I'll tell you which champions I think will be important in beating both of the bosses, and what kind of strategy will follow. So this is the Grythion. This one looks like a big bird with, well, yeah, a big bird. So let's go over and see his skills. So here are his skills. So Shockwave attacks one enemy, 100% chance of placing a fear debuff for one turn. That's on his basic. So it's going to be a very annoying basic, but it's a fear, not a true fear. So at least that's happening. A2 transfers all debuffs from Grythion to each enemy, then attacks all enemies. Fills Grythion's turn meter by 5% for each debuff transfers. So the more turn he takes, the more basics he's gonna do. Well, compared to the other cooldowns as well. So ideally, you'll go in there with not so many debuffers because it's gonna be annoying if you put a defense down and weaken, and that comes back to your whole team. And yeah, he's gonna get a lot of turns depending on how many debuffs you're gonna have. But at least 2 debuffs, I think, won't be that bad. Or maybe you should apply the debuffs after he takes his turn. Next up is Death Gust. Removes all buffs from all enemies, then attacks all enemies. The buff removal cannot be resisted. Damage increases by 10% for each buff removed. Very important to not go with a completely, big buffing team, especially with heal ups, heal over time, and then all kind of other buffs. And then he's going to be doing a ton of damage. You don't know how much damage this is going to do, but if you have a defense down from this one because you did apply it to the boss, and then it's applied on you, basically this one will be killing you off. So maybe just go without any debuffers or buffers. We'll see on the passives. And then Divine Strike is his first passive. Attacks an enemy whenever their HP drops below 50%. This attack plays 100% heal reduction debuff for 2 turns. This is extremely annoying just because of his attacks should apply the fear debuff as well. So if he does attack with the basic attack and it's not a different attack, which I think it's going to be the basic attack, then this will be very annoying to deal with. You're going to need to have cleansers possibly for this heal reduction debuff, because that's the only way that you can get through this boss. And then Celestial Bond is his A5, his other passive. Adds 1 Sky Bond buff to Grythion at the start of each turn. Also adds 1 Sky Bond buff whenever an enemy HP drops below 50%. So when this happens, each Sky Bond buff increases Grythion's attack by 5%, critical rate, critical damage, speed by 2.5. Will ignore shield, block damage, and killable when Grythion has 10 or more. Can stack up to 20. So on 20, he's going to have like 50 more speed, 100% more attack. What is that? 60% more critical rate. 100% more critical damage. So basically you'll need to have a way to beat Grythion in under 20 turns, because on 20 turns he's gonna be wrecking stuff for sure. I mean, he's gonna be wrecking stuff before that, but on 20 turns he's gonna be wrecking them on maximum strength. And then his A6 Fair Wind. Whenever Grythion's turn meter is decreased, the turn meters of all enemies will be decreased by the same amount. Plays a stun debuff for 1 turn on enemies with fully depleted turn meters. Whenever an enemy's turn meter is filled, Grythion's turn meter will be filled the same amount. Turn meter increases are tracked and counted individually for each enemy. So wow, this is a very strong passive. Seems to be very strong. So you can't go with a champion that increases turn meter in there. So let's say an arbiter that does a double increase in turn meter. Grythion will get turn meter for each of the allies that get boosted. So it's gonna be 5 times that amount of 30% increase in turn meter. Definitely a very solid team should be used for Grythion. He doesn't seem to be like an easy boss to handle so far. And then the Almighty Immunity. Okay, this one is the basic immunity that all bosses have. So also immune to HP exchanging, so immune to everything pretty much. Decrease the damage taken from poison debuffs by 90%, so you can't poison kill the enemy. The poison strategy is out of the equation. Damage from skills that scale based on enemy max HP cannot exceed 10% of the boss's max HP. Another one, all turn meter reduction effects are decreased by 50%. So yeah, 6 passives or something this boss has. He only has 2 skills, and then everything else is just passives. It's insane how this boss is gonna be handled. It seems that you'll need to go there with um, a debuff remover and then just high damaging team without any boosters in there, because boosters are just gonna be benefiting um, the boss. So they're gonna be giving Grythion the boost. I think Lydia again will see a lot of use here just because she can apply both debuffs and buffs to your whole team. The buffs are going to be important because a speed up buff is better than a speed boost versus Grythion. So a speed boost will be annoying uh, because Grythion will be getting a lot of turns. So speed buff is way better. So I don't think I'll be using, let's say, Arbiter in there or anybody else that boosts your speed. No Thermometer reduction skills will be used because that's basically useless with this passive with Almighty Persistence. And then I think with the fear debuff right here, it's just going to be Lydia also counterattacking there. So very important to finish off the faction wars to get her. She's always really good in the Doom Tower. Overall, I think a good strategy will come up with possibly applying your debuffs after this is used, the Rock Smash. I think this might be used first by the boss. We don't know yet. We might have access to the test server sometime soon, and we may be able to do this, but nothing was given to us just yet, so only this information. So let's next up let's go and see Iragoth. So Iragoth, let's go over and see his his 3D animation here. So here's Iragoth. I think he's just a cool one, but the thing is that he also summons two more the Internal Priest and the Internal Guard, two more adds to his side, which each ad does something different. I'll go very quickly to what the ads do. So the Internal Guard attacks all enemies, places a 60% decreased defense debuff, which is very strong. Also places a provoke debuff for one turn on enemies under block cooldown skills. This is very important because this is what the boss does. We'll go to that in a minute. Decreases the damage taken by allies from AoE attacks by 75%. So this is going to be annoying. You won't be able to take down these guys with AoEs. I think champions like Cold Hearts might be here the solution to take this guy out very, very fast, but we'll see on that in a bit. Internal Priest minion attacks when enemy place a block cooldown skills debuff for 2 turns. Resets the cooldown of all enemy skills when this champion is killed by an enemy. So you'll have to kill this Eternal Priest to reset your cooldowns. Very, very important on using this to your benefit throughout the fight. So I don't know how easy this boss is going to be on auto mode. So let's go finally to this boss. So Iragoth, here's the A1 block cooldown skills debuff. So the Internal Guard will be applying provoke when this is on your team, with the block cooldown skills is on your team. So next up is Spirit Rush. His A2 attacks all enemies, inflicts bonus damage for every turn remaining on enemy skills cooldowns, 20% damage for each turn on cooldown. Place a fear debuff on enemies with no skills on cooldown. This is insane. So this is insane. It does way more damage depending on the cooldowns of your skills. So ideally, you'll either kill the priest right before he does this, so that you will have all your skills not on cooldown when those are reset by the damaging skill. So ideally, also the last champion in your team will be doing the killing blow, so everything is reset and then the boss takes a turn. So we may need to get the boss's speeds to in order to speed tune a team before that, in order to be able to kill the priest right before the boss takes a turn. So it's gonna be difficult to consider at first. So Soul Burst attacks all enemies, puts all enemy skills on cooldown. This is so strong, but this will also mean that you'll need to refocus on killing that priest maybe after this is done instead, so that you can reset your cooldowns. Because if this is done and then this is done, you're a bit doomed. Or maybe you should wait for this before getting the kill on the priest. Once this is done, you get the kill on the priest, and then you switch on after this is done, because you won't have any cooldowns. You use your cooldowns and then just wait for the boss. But here is where the priest and the guards are actually in place. Summon 3 minions at the start of the turn, 1 Eternal Priest and then 2 Internal Guards. So the guards are the ones that apply provoke. The priest is the one that resets the cooldown. Can have a maximum of 3 minions in battle at any time. Place an eternal rage buff on Iragoth for 2 turns if only 1 minion is summoned or no minions are summoned by this skill. So it means that if those are still active, he will place the eternal rage buff. If only one of them is active, he will place the eternal rage buff. This buff cannot be removed or blocked. The Eternal Rage buff increases Iragoth's speed and causes Iragoth to ignore unkillable, block damage, shield buffs, and ignore 50% of the target's defense when attacking. Next up, on his A5, Consume Soul. At the start of the turn, sacrifice an Eternal Priest and resets the cooldown of Iragoth's skill. So, very, very difficult to actually go against this boss. I think this boss will be extremely hard to beat. Anyway, and grants an extra turn. So, not only he will have reset all his cooldowns, he'll also get an extra turn. So, you need to kill the Eternal Priest first before the boss does this, and you'll see how you're going to do this, because if there are no Eternal Priests on the team, sacrifice an Eternal Guard and heals Iragoth by 15% of Iragoth's max HP. I think this is not as bad as getting a reset on all his cooldowns and also getting an extra turn. So I think this is not as bad as actually, you know, having the heal. The thing is, this skill will be on a 4-turn cooldown at the start of each battle and will activate and go on cooldown every 5 turns if there are no Eternal Priest or Eternal Guards on the team. So very, very important to actually take out those priests and guards throughout the fight. I know the Eternal Rage buff will go on the boss. It's very essential for the boss, I think, not to get the reset on his cooldown. This starts on a cooldown for the boss. So what you need to do is wait for the next page, okay, guys? So Otherworldly, the passive that it's will basically active for all kinds of bosses, but this one is very specific because he's also immune to decreased speed, poison, and heal reduction debuff. So it's very essential to just take damage on this guy. He's going to be immune on poison, so poisoners are going to do nothing against this boss. Also immune to HP exchange, HP balancing, or thermometer reduction effects. That's okay by me. Not immune to cooldown increase effects. So here, Warlords, I think the most important one will be having a Warlord. I know it's not an easy champion to get, but don't worry, guys. There's Basher that does a great cooldown reduction effect as increase effect as well. So 2 turns cooldown increase to the boss. It's a target skill, and I think the MVP right here will be Sinesha, because she puts the target's cooldowns on, well, target skills on cooldown on a targeted skill. So if you have Sinesha and she does her A2, which is on a 3-turn cooldown, if I'm not mistaken, then this will be very important in taking down this boss. I think Iragoth will be taken down by Sinesha. I mean, by the majority of players, compared to all the other players who will also have Warlord. Warlord will be bringing buffs to the whole team and healing and stuff like that. But I mean, Sinesha is going to be very, very ideal for this because of the low cooldown and accessibility for that champion. Almighty Strength, passive damage of skills that scale based on enemy magic HP, cannot exceed 10% of the boss's max HP. So I think this is just the only way to beat him, using champions that do increase the cooldowns of this boss on a very short cooldown for themselves again. So I think this is where you'll need to focus on with your champions. I think Sinesha will be the key, but also we might have some introduction of new champions that, you know, make our lives so much easier. They're gonna give like a 10x on summoning those champions, I'm guessing. Who knows until the time comes, but definitely Sinesha will be the one that's used by everyone to take down this boss. Attacks when any, puts the target skills on cooldown. This is 3 turns cooldown. I think this will be the only way to control this boss and have him you know, have him not use those high damaging skills, especially Spirit Rush and Soul Burst. These will need to stay on cooldown. It's a 3-turn cooldown by itself, but this resets his cooldowns. So once you go into the fight, you'll need to be faster. So you use your Sinesha to take down his cooldowns and then not let him, you know, get the Eternal Priest kill. When he does this, he'll reset his cooldown. So ideally, you'll have a rotation that kills the priest and also uses either Sineshas or other champions that increase the cooldowns. So the combination of those two will be the way to take this guy down. I think this guy is more clear on how to take him just through the skills on paper. But of course, when the actual fight comes, it might be different. It might be hard also to find a team that kills the first 2 waves once you reach to the boss. So having a team that also synergizes 4 waves is also required, not just having a team that kills the boss. And the same thing for Grythion, but Grythion I think is a little bit harder. His kit seems to be a little bit harder compared to Iragoth. At least Iragoth, there seems like an obvious way to go with cooldown increase skills. So thank you guys for watching this video. What do you think of these two champions? Are you prepared? Do you have any of those? So it's Basher and Sinesha, the easily accessible champions. If not, there's even some uncommons that do this, but it's a percentage chance to happen. There's even some rare champions that do this, but again, I think it's a percentage chance to happen. I think Harvester is one of them, if I'm not mistaken. A full list of champions I'll probably introduce in the next video to the channel, so that we can have a bigger idea of champions that can help us against at least Iragoth, and then maybe all the other content creators. We can think of a solution for the other boss as well. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and guys, I'll see you in the next one. See ya.